Hey there, I promised you a video about integrating masculine and feminine energy, and I'm sorry it's taken me this long to come up with it, but I just didn't feel inspired, and I don't want to just hand out a bunch of information that I don't feel inspired to share. So I want to start out with identifying, what is considered masculine and what is considered feminine. And I want to say right off the bat that it's not about being a male or female or transgender or any fluid gender identification. It's not about how you identify. These traits are just a way of talking about different characteristics that people have. And they have traditionally become associated with male and female, or with masculine and feminine, or with yin and yang. That's another way of talking about it, is the yin and the yang. It's a more neutral way of talking about what the Western cultures talk about as masculine and feminine traits. So what are those, and what should we do with them? That's what I want to talk about, is what are those traits, and why are we so confused about it, and why are we so trapped by different qualities that we possess, or that we don't want to possess, or that we're dying to possess? Why are we so judgmental about these qualities in ourselves and other people? So let's start out with identifying some of the common traits on the masculine side. And again, some of them are, people use judgmental words like dominant and aggressive, maybe forceful, thrusting energy, the logic, the black and white thinking, the, not being emotional in the decision making. These things are the ability to say no, violence. These are all things that are considered masculine in nature, and I'm sure some other ones will come up later too. That competitive drive, the driven, the ambitious, all of that is considered to be masculine traits. On the feminine side is the more passive, receptive, creative, emotional, sensitive, empathic, compassionate, intuitive. All of that is considered to be feminine. And yet, if you listen to those two things, it's like, I know that I'm hearing you saying, but I'm competitive, and, I don't think of myself as masculine, or I'm sensitive emotionally, or I'm empathic, and I'm not a woman, or I don't think of myself as feminine. The truth is, we have all of these aspects inside of us. Every single person does. We think about violence. Well, I'm violent against flies and ants for sure. Sometimes I'm even using violent words, with my husband, shut up or whatever. That's violence. And that's, considered to be a masculine trait. And other times it's like I feel paralyzed to take action about something that I know I want to be doing, but I feel paralyzed to take action. That's considered to be feminine, that passive behavior, the not saying, the no, the connection energy, the yes, that's considered to be feminine. Sometimes I'm very much in that energy, and sometimes I am an immediate no, I don't want to do that. And that's considered to be masculine. So what is it? Is it about integrating those, and what does integrating mean? Well, one way of thinking of it is the blending of those two, and that's not exactly what I mean by it. What I'm talking about is the ability to integrate our awareness that we have both sets of characteristics inside ourselves. And if we're a healthy person, no matter what your gender identification is, or whether you are fluid in your gender identification, it doesn't matter. It's about the ability to be aware of all those qualities inside you, and then to make a conscious choice about which aspect is called for in which situation. Now, this is really the essence of healthy masculine and feminine traits, is the acknowledgement that there isn't anything negative about having feminine traits in a man, and there isn't anything negative about having masculine traits in a woman. Women nowadays openly talk about wanting a man who is compassionate and sensitive and able to express his emotions and is able to receive love and be affectionate and connected. All of those are considered feminine traits. And yet we don't want a man who is just passive and doesn't take action and doesn't have any of that thrusting, assertive energy, because then he doesn't feel like a man, and then it makes me not feel like a woman. Or again, that's been my situation. You know, I want the man, and this is very well documented in terms of sexuality, is that polarity is needed to feel that attraction, that chemistry between two people. There needs to be polarity. Now, does that mean that one person needs to carry all the masculine energy and the other one feminine? No. You can even switch roles. Sometimes you might be the more assertive, aggressive one sexually, and sometimes the partner might be. But somebody needs to take on that role, and there needs to be polarity. If both of you are in that aggressive energy, that doesn't work. If both of you are in that passive energy, that doesn't work. So there is a chemistry that comes from polarity between people. But what happens is we tend to get stuck. We often tend to get stuck in one or the other, or at least we think we are identifying in this way. You know, I used to think that I had a lot of male energy. And it's so interesting, the older I get and the less I feel like I need to prove that I'm strong, you know, the more I realize that, you know, I'm very feminine, you know, and I've started loving light blue and pink and, you know, pastel colors, which I didn't like before. They weren't bold enough. So it's just crazy, all the ideas we have about what we should be and what we shouldn't be. So don't get stuck in that belief that, you know, okay, well, I'm a woman, therefore I need to dress this way and look this way and behave this way. Now, certain conservative religions will definitely tell you that's true, that the man needs to be the head of the household, that the woman's job is to just be supportive to the man, you know, and that supportive role is a very feminine quality. And, you know, it's like, I don't believe in any of that. I believe that we can be equals because we both can be aware of all of those characteristics, and we can choose which one consciously is going to be the best fit for this particular time in our lives. If your child is struggling in school and they are having a really hard time paying attention, especially now with online learning. I hear this all the time from clients. It's so difficult. But it's like, well, if you have consciousness about which aspect of yourself is going to be most effective in this situation, it's like you don't want to get into that old-fashioned masculine role of, you know, just sit your butt down and paste it to the chair and, you know, just do it. Just do it, do it, do it. And neither do you want to be in that all, quote-unquote, feminine quality of acceptance. And just, it's okay, honey. You know, I know it's too hard. You know, you just go do what you want to do and come back when you're ready. You know, that's not going to work either. You know, it has to be some direction for the child, and direction with support and affection. Direction, masculine, support and affection, feminine. Both of those things are needed. A friend of mine, Beth Green, says, truth without love is cold and harsh. Love without truth is meaningless and inconsequential. I don't know if those are her exact words, but that's the idea. And again, the love is the feminine, the truth is the masculine quality. And one without the other is not as powerful. You know, men who believe that, okay, I'm going to be a bodybuilder and I'm going to make all the money in the family and I'm going to be the head of the household and that's the right way to be a man. Well, and then their wives come to me for counseling and say, you know, I want him to be affectionate. I want him to show empathy. I want him to be compassionate with our children and with me. I want to have my voice heard. So even though the person might have been raised, that man might have been raised to believe that that's what a proper man should do, never crying, never being emotional, all of those things. But that man is actually not strong. That man is weakened tremendously by his inability to access those qualities that are more feminine that he feels. You know, going back to the sexuality conversation, so many times men have learned to focus all of their what are considered feminine feelings and needs to their genitals, so that their need for affection, their need for comfort, their need for dependency, their need for love are all turned into sexual behavior. And then they don't feel bad about it. They can still be a man, and they are hiding all those other needs in their need for sex. Now, again, that doesn't work well because they're not in touch with what their genuine needs are, and they think they need sex when really what they need is to be held and comforted and have their hair stroked. And they're never going to get that if they go for the sex, and they're never even going to know that they need that. So it's so important to understand that we have all of them. And just as I was sharing about my own tendency to energize the masculine and try to cover up the feminine, because I learned at an early age that those masculine qualities were stronger. And I didn't want to be vulnerable. I didn't want to look weak and needy, for lots of reasons in my family. It wasn't safe to do that. And so I wanted to pretend like I was all these masculine qualities, and I overdeveloped those. But the truth is, I wasn't all that way. I was needy and vulnerable and sensitive and intuitive and spiritual and all those very, very feminine qualities. Now, am I glad that I can energize that I can say no, that I can break off relationships that don't work? You know, eventually I learned how to do all of that. And absolutely, I'm glad that I can do that. There's no doubt about it. But I'm more happy that I can energize whichever aspect is actually called for in the situation. And, you know, sometimes we get so self-protective that we energize that barrier and we don't even really show who we are. And oftentimes that barrier becomes anger or judgment or opinions, all of which are considered masculine traits. And we feel like we're being stronger because we're being angry. But really, that isn't being strong at all, because being strong is the ability to be authentic and transparent. And often what you're actually feeling is vulnerable and unwanted and insecure and unloved. And if you can't energize that kind of self-expression and you're hiding it behind this masculine facade, then you're never going to get your needs met. In fact, you're going to create the isolation that you don't want by appearing angry and unhappy and critical and judgmental. Again, all masculine traits. You're going to come across that way. And this happens to a lot of women, you know, who feel very afraid of being dominated by men, maybe because they were molested by a man, because they come from a culture where males are dominating, or they come from a religion where males are dominating. Everybody in the world, I mean, our whole world is male dominated. So I'm not judging or criticizing women for having developed that self-protective mechanism. So many women who move to high places. I mean, I'm thinking of Hillary Clinton right now. They were completely chastising her. This was decades ago for not calling herself Hillary Clinton. She was Hillary Rodham, and that didn't fly as the governor's wife in Arkansas. Back in the day. So she had to change her name because of the male-dominated society wanted the little woman by his side. So, she's been called all kinds of terrible names because she was powerful enough in a man's world to stand up for things she believed in. But she was made to feel like she was a ball buster and way too masculine. So it's just, we have so many things to overcome in our ability to energize both the masculine and the feminine sides of ourselves, and to have that welcomed in the culture. We are still taught as women to, be kind and be nice. And, I saw this on social media the other day, an old-fashioned cartoon of a little girl asking her mom, "Mom, what does it mean when a man calls a woman a bitch?" And the mother says, "It means she's getting shit done, honey." And it's like, I just laughed out loud when I read that, because there it is again. It's like the masculine energy in our world trying to dominate the feminine energy. And it's no wonder. And again, and the poor men in our society are taught to squelch all their feminine characteristics. Don't be a pussy. Boys don't cry. All of that sort of a thing. Don't be a mama's boy. So males are taught very, very early in life not to energize their feminine traits, and women are taught not to energize their masculine traits. So I want us all to feel free, to be all of who we are, and to have the wonderful kinds of relationships we can have when we can energize whatever aspect of ourselves is called for this particular situation. Do I need to call on that fierceness? Sometimes I do. Or do I need to call on that tenderness and that completely understanding, intuitive, compassionate side? Sometimes I do. And if I have developed both of those and have no judgment against any aspect of myself, then I can allow my guidance to guide me to whichever aspect is going to bring the highest good of all in this particular situation, and not be trapped in any kind of judgment about what's masculine or feminine. So I want for you to feel fulfilled, completely fulfilled. And that means honoring all the sides and understanding all the aspects of you and all of your feelings, and allowing yourself to embrace all of them without judgment. I hope this is helpful. Love to hear from you and your comments. Love you. Bye.